Gory mutilations, graphic nudity, and Kanye West engaging in coitus with a phoenix. These three things have more in common than you'd think, in that all three are frowned upon when trying to market an album to the public, and also in general as well, probably. So these images must be edited to make them more palatable for regular consumption, which is fair enough. But then you get the other side of the coin, where some album covers receive censorship for reasons that could generously be considered ridiculous. Besides being unfortunate enough to be released at a time when prudence was running amok in the general populace, most of these cover images had nothing all that offensive to offer. And some of the most famous musicians and albums of all time have fallen victim to seemingly unnecessary retouching. Most often, it's just a case of precaution overruling creativity. And the reasoning for it usually sounds pretty dumb. So, if you're ready for a hearty spoonful of ridiculous censorship, then strap yourself in for a handful of such instances. I am the fig leaf of Ash from What Culture Music, and these are 7 famous album covers that were censored for ridiculous reasons. 7. Alice Cooper, Love It to Death. The reason for censorship on this title was a thumb penis. Yes, you did hear that right, but whether it's a thumb that's a penis or a penis that looks remarkably like a thumb, you have yet to find out. But if there is one thing that people get upset about, it is definitely the old pants snake. And that is unsurprising, really, considering just how unsightly dicks can be when cropping up in places other than people's trousers. Understandably, nobody in the record-buying public seems to want John Thomas's anywhere near their albums, even if those pork batons are entirely subliminal or merely objects that happen to look a little bit like Todgers. For an example, look no further than Alice Cooper's Love It to Death. At first glance, the cover is nothing more than the band posing together, looking just a bit daft. But when Love It to Death was first released, those with particularly keen eyesight noticed there was something off about the lower half of the photo. Something was definitely sticking out of Alice Cooper's pants. Not to worry though, guys, it was just the old stick your thumb through the zipper trick, and he made quite a lot of folks fall for it. Unfortunately, not everyone found the prank so funny, and the near penis was airbrushed out along with Cooper's entire right arm, just to be extra safe. Seems a bit of an ego trip to me in the case of that edit, but there you go. 6. Rolling Stones, Beggars Banquet. Now, the Rolling Stones got themselves in a mix-up here with nothing more than a toilet. If record companies are to be believed, putting a picture of a toilet on the front of your album is akin to directly urinating all over your adoring fans. You might as well wrap your record in a used condom and sell them out of hot dog carts. How classless! The original iteration of the Rolling Stones' 1968 classic, Beggars Banquet, featured a dingy bathroom stall on its cover, as seen from the view of a man relieving himself. There was nothing particularly offensive about it though, and actually sounds much worse than it looks. The photo was a little grungy looking, of course, and there was a sly reference to Bob Dylan thrown in a wall graffiti, but nothing was overly distasteful. Still, the Stones were forced to change the cover, opting for the image of a boring RSVP card with the band name and album title presented in delicate calligraphy. It may be classier, but it doesn't really fit with an album containing songs like Sympathy for the Devil and Street Fighting Man. Men and devils have all got to piss sometime, my dudes. 5. Moby Grape. Moby Grape. What could possibly have gotten consumers in 1967 so worked up about this quaint photograph of psychedelic rockers Moby Grape? Was it the mop-top haircuts? That seems like something people could have got worked up about back then. Or perhaps it was something to do with the overwhelming amount of khaki being showcased. It is a lot of khaki after all. Actually, you would have to look much closer at the original cover for Moby Grape's eponymous debut to figure out what this one had that was censorship-worthy. In the middle of the group photo is a chap holding a washboard. That is Don Stevenson, the band's singer and drummer, who thought it would be funny if his middle finger was coyly jutting out over it. The cheeky act of defiance went unnoticed before the initial distribution, but the finger was lopped off in subsequent pressings, at least from the picture, not from his hand. Only decades later did UK reissues restore the digit to its slightly rebellious glory. You keep on keeping on, mild middle-fingering rebels who love to hate the system, but only after tea time. 4. Scorpions, LOVEDRIVE. The censored album cover for the Scorpions' Love Drive is a quintessential example of lazy, heavy metal artwork. In lieu of any real creativity, there's a cartoonish rendering of a scorpion perched atop the word Scorpions. just in case there was any confusion about what exactly consumers were looking at. The whole thing was splashed over a black background and was proved to be almost as exciting as watching fan blades rotate. But that cover only exists because the original concept was so gratuitous that Playboy magazine named it the best album sleeve of the year. Ooh. It is equal parts ridiculous and mesmerizing, and naturally, it was banned in the United States. The uncensored image is that of a dapper man in a suit with his hand attached to an elegantly dressed woman's breast by way of a putty-like substance. Ah, yes, I remember my first time. There's no real indication of why this is happening on the cover. But hey, does it even matter at this point? All we can do is shout questions into the void. Is the guy pulling part of that woman's boob off? Is her boob sticky? Does she have bubblegum on her boob? Did he put bubblegum on her boob? There are just so many questions and sadly, no answers. 3. Three Dog Night. Hard labour. Even bands who build their careers on being a straightforward rock group like to get a little weird sometimes. Three Dog Night proved that with the cover for Hard Labour, which featured a group of deranged doctors gathered around a mannequin dinosaur lady giving birth to a bloody vinyl record, front and centre on the sleeve as if it were a perfectly normal occurrence in your average hospital. Just the thought of giving birth to a whole vinyl has me crossing my legs here. Never mind in full Technicolor, Jesus Christ! Whilst well put together and a bit of an offbeat artwork in the long line of strange cover art that has made it to shelves, the image didn't sit well with some people. When the record company realised how many nightmares and children's tears they would be producing, they decided to fix the offensive part, which they estimated was the vinyl record. Not the creepy doctors, not the half-dinosaur, half-human woman with a reptilian feet in stirrups, just the vinyl. For future pressings, they superimposed a large bandage over the problem and called it a day. 2. Blink-182, Enema of the State. Now, it is not often that you'll get done for an album cover violating the Geneva Convention. The album that sprung Blink-182 and their brand of goofball pop punk into mainstream acceptance also came dangerously close to putting the band in violation of the aforementioned treaties. In a Q&A session with Reddit, singer and bassist Mark Hoppus explained how an early version of the Enema of the State cover art nearly turned the immature rockers into international law violators. Though the Enema art, which is a very fun phrase, went through several minor changes over the course of its production, like changing the B in the band's name from upper to lowercase to add an extra sense of whimsy, the most important alteration occurred after the group received a letter from the Red Cross, who expressed their displeasure that the sexy nurse adorning the cover was sporting their logo. According to Hoppus, the humanitarian organisation stressed that Blink-182 was in no way a medical organisation, and would thus need to remove the logo or else remain in violation of the Geneva Convention. Apparently, the actual Red Cross adorning porn star Janine Lindemulder's nurse hat is no ordinary registered trademark. It is a registered trademark that, if used without the consent of the Red Cross, qualifies as a crime against humanity. But if you ask me, the real crime here is the organisation's glaringly vacant sense of humour. 1. David Bowie, Diamond Dogs. The line on what constitutes indecency in commercial artwork is a thin one. No artist knows that quite like David Bowie. Diamond Dogs found Bowie on the tail end of his Ziggy Stardust persona. So he'd already endured several controversies surrounding his image, as he'd been lambasted a few years earlier for wearing a dress on the cover of The Man Who Sold the World. But the Diamond Dogs artwork showed an even bigger faux pas. His penis. It's those things again. Well, okay, it wasn't really his penis. It was actually just an artist's rendering of what Bowie would look like as a half-man, half-dog hybrid, with the crossbreed's genitalia subtly included on the back of the sleeve. But people kind of lost their minds over it, and very few copies of the cover made it to stores with the genitals intact. People who were offended at this Bowie album probably didn't even really know what they were offended at exactly. The fact that there was a hint of a dog's genitalia on the cover, the fact that the dog genitalia belonged to David Bowie, whatever the reason, it was ultimately decided that the offending body part should be shaded in, so that a person couldn't immediately infer what was going on with the dog man's junk area. Honestly, it probably helped further Bowie's androgynous persona even further, and much to his benefit. And that's our list. What other famous albums had ridiculous censors slapped on them that belong up here? Which of these do you think is the most weird? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. I've been Ash, and this has been What Culture Music. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and come back again soon for some more lovely musical content. Thanks for watching.